Know the thing. So Nada, welcome,
Thank you so much, Gregorio.
Gregorio. Bienvenido.
Gracias.
Welcome. It's a pleasure to have you. Um, I would start with if you can introduce yourself. Who is Nada? Where is Nada coming from?
Mhm.
And what Nada does in Tulum?
Thank you so much. People know me as Nada. Not many people know, but my name is Ricardo.
Ricardo?
Ricardo.
Ricardo.
I was born in Portugal in Lisbon, and I've had a very interesting life of living in many different countries until I finally ended up in Canada, actually. And Canada, it's where my kind of like DJ music sort of story starts.
Okay.
And
How old were you?
I was
Approximately.
I was maybe 35 years old.
Ah, so it's not something like it was suddenly age of 17.
No, no, it's something.
Okay, okay.
I mean, music has always been part of my life, but this kind of like the DJing, the electronic
Hmm.
music comes a little bit later, for
Later.
sure.
Okay. What what opened the door
An amazing festival in the forest
in Canada?
in Canada.
Which one?
It's called Om Festival or Solstice
Um.
Gathering.
Ah, okay.
It's a very beautiful festival. It's not, there's people, a lot of people know about solstice as this Oregon solstice, and the one that they did in Patagonia is not that one. But it's a very beautiful festival that was run for over 20 years in Ontario, in the forests in Ontario. And it was on June 21st. So it was a really, really beautiful.
Okay. What happened that suddenly you told yourself, okay, I wanna play this music, or how do I even?
Well, what happened? Like, I went there, and like I always liked music, and music was good, but I kind of like connected to it in a different way, you know? Like,
Mhm.
I felt the music inside my body for the first time, and I kind of like realized I don't know, there was this very beautiful stage called Roots, and they were playing more kind of like tribal house,
Mhm.
and it was all made of wood, so you could
Ah,
feel the
wow.
like the stage sort of like shaking, and I felt it in my body, and I felt this like I went somewhere else,
Yeah.
and I realized, wow, this is amazing. And I don't know if it was at there and then that I decided I want to play, but I definitely said, wow, I want this in my life, I
Yeah.
want to feel this feeling. So
So everything line up. The visual, the sound,
the
the
visual, the
experience.
sound, the people,
That's
the
cool.
freedom.
20, well, not 20, but few years later, here you are in Tulum.
Yes.
Mostly know as somebody who is
Hmm.
involved in the scene. In the scene. What made you choose Tulum?
So Tulum was also very interesting. Actually, my Tulum story starts in Jamaica, believe me or not. So I went to Jamaica to a festival called Tomorrow Today in Negril. And in this festival, I met someone who is now a very dear friend of mine called Zohar. And Zohar is a Mexican woman, and she owns a property here in Siancan.
Mhm.
So we met, we connected, it was super nice. And we ended up going to Burning Man that year together. And we at Burning Man we decided, okay, we want to do something amazing, and she said, why don't we all go to Tulum and like to Sian Khan and like create this like music community, all of this vibe. And we're like, okay, let's do it. And I guess at that time I was also, it was just before COVID, so I was feeling this sort of like energy in the
Mhm.
air, and I was like, I was ready for this transition, and I just like I came to Tulum.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm ready. And I came, and I ended up in Sian Khan, and it was really beautiful.
Nice. I think Burning Man has a great energy of creating and bringing people together. Eventually,
For
you're there.
sure,
It's like, what are we going to do?
for sure,
It's
for
like I had
sure.
the same experience with Ran.
Hmm.
We met in Brazil, and then hey, what are you doing? You want to come to Burning Man? Let's go to Burning Man. We met in Burning Man. Hey, do you want to go live in India? Okay, let's go to India.
Beautiful.
It's something in the it's like it's a beautiful thing about how we people create the magic,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
if you just go there by itself, The place is a desert, which is also magical, yes, by itself.
Yeah.
But it's what you create that you bring to the table that can definitely, expand. Which is also, I think, it's has also a magic in Tulum itself, which is also has that kind of a
That
vibe.
kind of energy. Yeah.
Yeah. So you started your musical journey 35, or were you like playing instruments before? How would you say? Because you
I
were into music,
I
obviously.
I really, it's a very interesting story for me. I didn't play instruments, no. I enjoyed music. I grew up in a house where my grandfather loved music, and I remember always he had this like big like hi-fi system or
Mm,
whatever with speakers and vinyls and cassettes and all
yeah.
of the things. So music was always part of my life, and my mom and dad also loved music. And for some reason I was not like, I never thought of myself as a musician. I guess at this time was like, oh, if you are a musician you
Hmm.
play instruments, and I didn't think of myself as a musician. So like music was there, and like
Hmm.
when I reflect back I know that it's obviously always been there along the journey.
Yeah.
But it was not until this like later, my mid 30s, that I actually say, wow, I like this, and it's very beautiful because you also allow me to like break a little bit with that limiting belief that you like are born a musician or you
Hmm.
play the instruments or you're in a musical family or something. And it's just like the music really captured me, like
Yeah.
spoke to me.
It's like who said it? Van Gogh? No, no, Dali said it, or Picasso, that every child is born the artist,
Mm.
and then we you
Then
know
yeah,
remove it in schools or
yeah.
something like that. I was just also listening to some podcasts like, about how every kid has a perfect pitch,
Uh-huh.
like until 9 months,
Uh-huh.
and then because we speak the only one language and the same, like, and same monotonical, the kids kind of lose the ability to hear pitches,
Uh-huh.
to listen. But it's like you say, like, you were raised up in home, in an environment that's full of music, and we ourselves sometimes don't see ourselves like, to be an artist I need to be like, on a stage, or to me to express music I need to be like
Mm-hmm.
that, which I think it's, if you look on let's say African cultures,
Mm-hmm.
everybody plays an instrument. Like, it's so
Mm-hmm.
normal to sit in a circle
Mm-hmm.
and everybody has some kind of a drum.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to be that, artist to
Mm-hmm.
participate in things
Mm-hmm.
that's called
Mm-hmm.
music or
Mm-hmm.
rhythm,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which I think sometimes holds us a lot of us as well back.
Yeah, hold us back for sure. And it's interesting, what it's making me think is that I remember my earliest memory of music was not so much like uh, it was dancing. So I
Mm.
also connect music to movement because I remember being very very young, maybe 5 years old, and going on holiday with my family, and some sort of like resort in South Spain. And like I was 5 years old, and there was all of these bars with music and whatever. And I remember like it's one of my very very early memories. I remember being like very small because I was five, of course, in the middle of all of these people
Hmm.
dancing. So I was kind of like in a different thing. I only saw legs,
Yeah. Kneecaps.
but I was like really vibing to the music. It was interesting, and I remember kind of like feeling that sense of freedom with like feeling the music,
Hmm.
and allowing my body to move to the music. So
Yeah, dancing is it's incredible.
hmm
Dancing is, I also find fascinating how a tool of communication it can be. It's a tool of expression for one
hmm
side,
hmm
yourself and music, but it also can be, you can see it on dance floors and festivals and everywhere. How people dance differently if they're by themselves,
hmm
and how they want to communicate with other people as well.
of course.
Even if it's like with women or just with friends or just being part of a new group,
hmm
you suddenly can feel that through music. You have a very interesting project here in Tulum,
hmm
Moonrise. You can tell us a bit about it.
Yeah, I'm very happy. Thank you for asking me. The Moonrise project is something that I hold very dear to my heart, and it's we call it a full moon experience. And it started with I guess like me naturally, and also being here in Tulum, like we get more connected to nature,
Hmm.
understanding the rhythms of nature. And something that I was always very interested is the moon, the cycles of the moon. And you know, I also grew up listening to all of the stories of the full moon parties and
Mm-hmm.
full moon parties in Kopangam and all of the things. And I always felt that there was a beautiful energy on that day. So together with Delek, who is owned by my friend Anna, and has a lot of like beautiful intention. For me, is one of those places that sits in the middle of the hotel road, but
Mm-hmm.
sort of like still keeps that kind of like vibe. Like it hasn't lost so much like of its vibe to
Mm-hmm.
commercialization. And we thought, okay, what can we do here? And they had been running a full moon party there for a while before, but I really, I don't know, like something came to me and I was like, okay, we have to do something beautiful out of this. And he came to me to do the Moonrise project because in Tulum we have a beautiful thing where the moon rises on the
Obviously,
ocean.
yeah.
It's like I love sunrise. I go to sunrise many times here in Tulum, and I get a lot of power from that energy. And then of course it was beautiful to feel that there's also a moonrise,
Mm-hmm.
and like what does that
Yeah.
mean? So it all started there. Actually started there's the moonrise, like what we want is for people to come here and connect to themselves and connect to the moon and watch this beautiful thing that is happening here. So start organizing. We've now been doing it for, we've just had our second anniversary for the full moon in
Oh, nice.
Virgo a couple of months back. So we've now done 28 consecutive events. And it's a very beautiful experience because it grew very organically. We
Mm-hmm.
started at the beginning, like little table on the beach, like speakers there were all oxidated from being on the beach. And me, I'm so particular about the sound, like how do we create the sound experience? And over 2 years we've grown to like have two stages, super amazing high fidelity sound,
Mm-hmm.
and the community has grown with us as well. So what I really love it's that it does become an experience. It's not
Yeah.
so much about the music, it's not so much about the party, it's about the experience. It's because for me what really creates a very beautiful event is a number of different things.
Yeah.
So it's how free the people feel, is what kind of people go there, it's
Mm-hmm.
like how they connect to nature, is the way they are received, and it's the music, is all of the things.
Yeah.
So the Moonrise project for me has been such an amazing opportunity to like explore that, and also give a stage to so many artists.
Yeah.
It's another thing that is beautiful, because once you create an event like this that people go and enjoy and all of the things, it also gives you a stage to put a lot of amazing people that, as you said, like through the music express their
Yeah.
authenticity and their truth.
It's beautiful. Like I got a chance to be 3 times. I think well, since I moved to Tulum, it's just like 4 months ago. So it's kind of
Oh, nice.
three
You have a
times.
good record.
So three
Three.
months out of four, and by the way, it's exactly as you said. It's not like I can choose to be in the stage in the party to experience the music,
Mhm.
but I remember like in the last time that I was just sitting on
The
the
beach.
beach,
Mhm.
and just looking on the ocean, and just enjoying the full moon,
Mhm.
and I think that what really catches my eye in that event, it's the raw experience of that. It doesn't feel like it's forced upon you, or it's behind
Mhm.
some kind of like curtains of prestige, or some, which a lot of places can get that, and it's just
Mhm.
raw people experience,
Mhm.
and you the experience to see people dance, people
Mhm.
perform with fire,
Mhm.
electronic music, raw sounds of drums and other
Mhm.
and other instruments. And you can choose whatever you want to choose. You can have a cocktail and you can sit with your feet
Mhm.
in the water. And
Mhm.
it's a very very unique experience. And
Mhm.
very very honest, I would say, in many
Mhm.
in many ways, because you can decide on one and you can continue on the beach,
Mhm.
or you can
No,
come from the beach and say, hey,
for
what is
sure.
going on here?
For sure. For sure.
Something is going on. How long have you been in Tulum in total? So if
I've just, it's coming to 6.5 years that
six and a
I've
half,
arrived. Yeah. Mhm.
that's exactly before COVID,
Before 2019.
2019,
Mhm.
before the big explosion of
Before the big explosion,
of of,
exactly.
of Tulum.
Hmm.
Um, where do you see it from your perspective? What's the change that's happening in Tulum?
I mean, it's like such a big change. Like I've been to so many like experiences and moods as I think many people that have been here, and I think that's a recurrent to this
Hmm.
place and many other places. I know people that arrived in Tulum 20 years ago, and
Hmm.
I know people that arrived to Tulum 45 years ago,
Yeah.
So everyone is going through these changes. I think what I've seen is a very accelerated growth, because Tulum was already, quite very much on the radar by the time I got here. However, I think with COVID, like,
Hmm.
I don't know if you like, on one hand, many people came here and had this incredible experience. At the same time, it like kept sort of like electronic music alive with all of these like jungle parties and all that. And then especially after COVID, I think COVID like was not just like people staying at home, but it was, I think, also this like shift in people's mind where they can realize, well, I actually can work from anywhere, and
Hmm.
and like I think they became a little bit more daring going to other places, and Tulum was kind of like, I don't know, like maybe like talked about at that time or
Hmm.
something, and a lot of people came. And I saw many things. I think it's a little pueblo, a little town that grew very fast. Like I've already went past the stage where I was a little bit against that
Hmm.
growth, because I think most of us, even though change is the only constant in life, I think us as human beings, we are always a little bit resistant to
Yeah.
change. And for me, was more like I came to Tulum because I was searching nature, I was searching peace, I was
Hmm.
searching for something that was a little bit more connected. And I think with accelerated growth, also many good things come, for sure. I can imagine, like, there's better infrastructures, there's better beautiful places for people to live. And at the same time, it kind of like, we live in a world that is also so connected that, like, if the place grows very fast, like, it kind of like sometimes its magic gets a little bit masked,
Hmm.
because, as I say, like, oh, is it too different from LA? It's kind of the same, like you can get your Amazon delivered to your house,
Yeah.
the shops are kind of similar, like it becomes the same thing. Sure, we have beautiful nature, and then at some point, like, I went through a phase of like, okay, like, I'm tired of Tulum, like this is not the same anymore. And um and I had a beautiful conversation with a friend that had been here for a very long time, and she told me, like, it's not Tulum. Tulum is always the same. It's just what's happening here. Tulum has been here way before we arrived, and
And
it's
it's
going
gonna
to be
stay.
here
Yeah.
way before we all leave. So it's not Tulum. Tulum, the magic is here, and that really helped me to see things in a different way, and like and it helped me to remember that, it is still here. Like, sometimes I go to a cenote, or I
Hmm.
go to a little bit out of Tulum, or I go to Sian Khan, and I'm like, look at the stars, I look at the ocean, and I feel so grateful to be here.
Yeah.
It's really, really beautiful. But for sure, I've seen a very accelerated growth. I think many people came after the pandemic, built many things. There was a
Hmm.
lot of investment. Okay, let's build this huge building. I mean, I lived in La Valletta back in 2020, 5 years ago, where we are now, and there
Yeah.
was like some nice little houses here and there surrounded by jungle, and
Yeah.
now we are like in a city,
Yeah.
So
Small city. Small
small
city.
city, it's still beautiful. You
Yeah. Yeah.
still know everyone, and that's very nice,
Yeah.
So I think it's about like, I think it's a process within us. Definitely, is a process within myself to like find that balance.
Yeah.
Like, learn to accept change and see change, and at the same time, like, focus on the things that are beautiful.
Yeah. I had we talked to Alejandro from the Papaya Project,
Hmm.
and he described it beautifully. He said it's like a teenager right now,
Yeah, I
you
feel
know,
that
and,
too.
when it's teenager, it's exactly when you can see that the growth is really like in front of your eyes,
Yeah,
and you still don't know what kind of adult he's going to be,
yeah, yeah.
But it is like I tell you what, I moved from Mexico City, and the first thing that came into my that stood up in except the people and the vibe is the sky. There
Hmm.
was something like I can go out and you can see the stars.
Hmm. Hmm.
Everything is okay. Like, okay, you want
Hmm.
to live around people, you can move to this place. You want to be a little bit more not
Hmm.
disconnected, but more like in a nature.
Hmm.
It still has that. It
No,
still
it
has
has
that
that for sure. Yeah.
possibilities. But as you said, it's us people eventually that we're gonna move that
Hmm.
change or that natural growth. It's a
Hmm.
change of any place, by the way, in the world. I think it's a normal cycle of places and human beings.
Hmm. No, for
You know,
sure.
like I remember like there's some there's even like a most of neighborhoods around the big cities. For example, if they're like beaten up, cheap, not. Suddenly you have like a more students and artistic people living there, right? And so
Mhm,
suddenly they create this kind of chic, like
mhm.
Condesa in Mexico City, for example, Roma Norte, it's kind of this chic environment. And
Mhm.
suddenly, okay, there's art going on.
Uh-huh.
People with investments start going, and then it's
Yeah.
kind of losing its magic, but it's just move a little bit,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, I totally feel that. I think there's this like constant movement,
Hmm.
as you say, where like, and I've been thinking about this recently, like there's this kind of like the underground culture that where you have like raw creativity,
Yeah.
it's not for a purpose of like selling it or commercializing it. It's just like raw
Hmm.
creativity. And then as soon as that pops up, that kind of like attracts, I don't know what it is, investment, money,
Hmm.
interest, like which is good because
Yeah.
that's what like brings that sort of like underground culture into more mainstream, so that
Hmm.
also impacts more people. And then at the same time, I think like it cannot help but kind of like affect a little bit that raw creativity, so then that raw creativity almost like moves a little bit to
Hmm.
another place, so
Yeah.
that there's like that raw essence that allows like the new things to be created. And I think it's Rick Rubin that says that ideas exist in the ether,
Hmm.
like, and I think that maybe people are more creative when they are in places where there's a bit more space in
Hmm.
order to connect with what is there and to bring it down.
Yeah,
And
definitely. Let's talk back, or let's bring back to Nada the artist.
beautiful.
As you said, Rick Rubin. So I'm gonna ask you in what music environment you grew up. So you said your granddad, your family were listening to
Hmm.
music, but what was your
What was the music?
background? Yeah,
What
it was
was
a
the
musical
music?
background.
It was amazing. It was actually kind of like 80s music. So
Hmm.
I was born in 79. So like I grew up with my grandparents and my parents, and my granddad, as I said, really liked music. And I remember a lot of like Queen, ABBA, like this sort of like very 80s. Like I remember like I mean I was born in Portugal, so there was a lot of like influence from like the UK. So you had
Hmm.
all of these synthesizers of the 80s, and that is very much there. And then at the same time, because I grew up in Portugal, I had a lot of influence from Brazil.
Nice.
We talked about Brazil
Yeah.
earlier on, and it was funny because growing up in Portugal in a different time in the past, when there was like 3 TV channels, and
Hmm.
one of the things that was recurrent was these Brazilian soap operas, and like with that a lot of Brazilian music, and the
Oh,
Portuguese
nice.
were very connected to the Brazilian, so Brazilian music was there, so that's for sure like a very strong influence. And again, my family also all came from Africa, from Angola. So I also
Mm.
had a lot of these more kind of like, I don't know, old kizomba, like bonga, all
Hmm.
of these like other kind of sounds. And I think it was a mix of all of this that I was listening at that time. My dad also really liked French music, so Serge Gainsbourg
Oh, wow.
and all
So
of these
all over
things.
the world,
Well,
influence
so
from
so
all.
I think from very early on I had this very like experience of many different
Hmm.
musics. And then, as we were saying, we're talking about being a teenager, and when I became a teenager, like I also hit this sort of like Guns N' Roses and AC/DC
Hmm.
and Metallica and Nirvana
Yeah.
and all of these like almost like teenager
Yeah.
music. It's like it was the transformation of music in a way. So I kind of like come from that, like as I'm younger I'm being more influenced by this sort of like world music, on to being a teenager and coming more with this sort of like attitude of
Hmm.
sorts. And then when I became a young adult, I was more I moved to England. I went to England to study, and this is when I started connecting a little bit more with electronic music. It's funny, and my first electronic music was trance.
Oh.
And still trance is something very important in my life, because trance for me creates this it's what it says,
Mhm. Yes,
trance is a
trans. Yeah.
trance, so it's like this hypnotic sort of like vibe. And I always remember something very interesting. So I went to study in university in England when I was 19 years old, and I lived in halls of residence. You know, I was in a completely different country, so like music was also my refuge in a way.
Mm-hmm.
It was my way to learn English better, I
Yeah.
guess. Did so many things, and I remember playing trance to sleep, which is something very interesting. It was just there was something like hypnotic
Authentic.
in
Yeah.
these rhythms that allowed me to sort of like maybe get some sort of like coherence in my
Mm-hmm.
energy or something. So
Yeah. No,
it,
trance is. I come from like a my dad was always like listening to hard rock music, so I kind
mhm,
of grew up on pick it up
mhm,
on Metallica, AC/DC, and then went way harder and faster. And when I started discovering electronic music, which was a higher tempo, so it always was trance music
mhm.
or drum and bass, which is like kind of it's the BPM is slower, but because you have so many
It's like yeah.
and it always especially trance music always reminded me of heavy metal
Mhm,
and the repetitive and it's like climaxing state you always
mhm,
get in
mhm,
trance music. It's very climaxing. It's like
mhm,
I would say aside from techno, which can be you can be rolling in that field for hours. You have
mhm,
those cuts in trance music that's just
mhm,
climaxing
mhm,
up and down,
mhm,
which I always loved. Which is also it's super. This trance music. I was actually
mhm,
yesterday. I was like listening to some vinyls, and there's a African band from the '70s, I think from Nigeria, and they have a song called Trance Dance.
mhm,
And it was way before trance music, it was in the '70s. And he
mhm.
says, "Let me put you to trance. Let me put you in trance dance. Let me put you in trance." I'm like,
Wow, beautiful.
I like associated with trance music immediately because trance.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
so, wow. So you went. What was your journey then? Where the country? You told me Canada, UK,
Yeah,
Portugal.
and then I just wanted to say something else that was interesting. So then I
Ah,
go to the UK, and I end up staying there for a long time, 13 years in total.
oh. So you didn't
And
plan it.
I went there for university. So
Mm.
I did 4 years of university, and then like I was following some sort of like condition pattern of
Hmm.
like what things were supposed to be. So I moved to London. I started working in London, but it was also the time that I like started going more to like I don't know, like clubs or parties. There was this like in Sheffield, there was a very famous club called Gate Crasher. You had Ministry of
Hmm.
Sound. You had all of these things that there was
Yeah.
already this like big sound.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I moved through that, and then I ended up living in London for a long time. And at some point, I'm very appreciative for everything. I think that every place is magical, so I'm very appreciative for London and all the experiences that I have there. And then you also got to a point that it was completed the cycle.
Yeah.
And when I felt that cycle was completed, I felt almost like like the work that I was doing. I started a small company with a friend, and I started realizing that we could work remotely, and
Hmm.
at this time, like, of course, London is a very expensive place, so like all my rent was expensive and all of this, and I ended up moving to France. So there was the first time that I left, and I was still working in London, but I was working, like emails and all this. There
Yeah.
was internet, so I was like, I didn't need to be there. There was an easy jet flight that flew
Yeah.
from where I was to London in like 30 minutes for $10. So I
Yeah.
was like, okay, I can go for a meeting whenever I want.
Yeah.
So I think that was like my first step into this more like nomadic or gypsy life or
Hmm.
whatever. So I ended up like living in France for a year, and then I moved to Angola. So I had this very interesting time in my life where I went back to where my parents and
Yeah.
my
The roots.
grandparents were born, back to the roots. And I think this was it was a very nice experience, because like it kind of like changed many things in my life.
Hmm.
Always living in Europe, growing up in these bigger cities, and suddenly going to I don't know, to like the raw. It was
Yeah.
rough, like, and like my dad used to say, like, you have to be Africa proof.
Uh-huh.
Everything is rough. Like
Yeah.
your stomach is rough, like, like, but rough doesn't need to be mean. It's just
Yeah.
like you need to like really get ready for all of the things. And I had a wonderful experience because I'm very connected to nature, and it allowed me to I used to fish a lot and spearfish and going into these beautiful spaces, and also like learning that nature has so much to give the
Hmm.
abundance of nature, just the fact of fishing. And I was like, wow, I can like feed myself and feed my friends, it was really really beautiful. So I ended up, and then I connected to all sorts of music which I heard since I was young, because
Yeah,
of course my family came from there. But then there is all these like kizomba and zouk and
yeah.
tarashinga and kuduru, and like, because Africans have rhythm in
Yeah,
them, you know, like
yeah.
that's what you were saying, like everyone has a drum, everyone dances. And also, like, recently I was having some thoughts about it, and it's like, it's almost like everyone needs something to sometimes like remove them from like the day to day, like to transcend. And I
Mhm.
think music and dance is such a beautiful way to transcend. And now that I look back, and like, especially like in Angola, I remember Luanda, that is a big city that it has, a lot of poverty. Like some
Mhm.
people are very rich and some people are very poor. But then what I always saw on the street with children and all that was like dance was their way to like transcend,
Yeah.
like. And for me it was beautiful because it really allowed me. And at this time I wasn't even thinking as a musician, let's
Mhm.
say. I was just like going through life, and music was always there, like the rhythms, the sensuality, the movement, the dance. It was a very very powerful time of my life, which I ended up living there for almost 5 years. And
Wow.
then at some point I was like, and I became more and more free in a way of like breaking with my own beliefs of what life should be. I
Mhm.
grew up with this idea, like, you gotta go to university, get your master's degree, still go and work in this job, and then whatever, I worked there for 40 years and
Mhm.
retire with a gold watch and a pension. And then I realized, oh, maybe this is not really what's for me. And then, going to Africa allowed me
Yeah.
to feel this different thing. So I kind of like concluded the time that I lived in Africa, where I did a very long safari through all of Africa. I drove 20,000 kilometers in my car, and like
Wow.
I went through all of these amazing things. And it was so beautiful because, like, it's almost like weird when we think about it these days. But at the time, like, I don't know, I didn't even have like signal on my phone. So you are just going.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful, and you are present, and you are connecting with
With the
and
local
go
people, yeah.
local people, but also going a little like kind of with a map,
Yeah.
but not with times, not with an itinerary,
Mhm.
just an idea, and allowing that movement to happen. And for me that was a really 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 beautiful way to experience Africa and that rawness of Africa.
What is
And
the one experience that you remember from that trip?
I mean,
Like,
the one that
that's.
always comes to my mind. So I was traveling I had a safari car with a tent on top. And at first when I set out, I was like, in this place, there's these very beautiful lodges, these like things that you can stop in the middle of the savannah and have really beautiful experiences. And I thought, okay, I'll sleep in my car a couple of days and I stay in this
Mhm.
nice place. And then I realized, wow, I actually love sleeping in my car. Like it gave me this like really beautiful independence, I
Yeah.
feel. Like it's kind of like you are moving all of the time. And the experience that I always remember was sleeping in the Kalahari Desert on a dry river bed. And you talked about the stars, and that's what I remember. I was like, oh my god, like this is so beautiful. Like the silence was so beautiful, like this incredible like Milky Way and all of the sky, and it was like so powerful. I don't know, I always remember that, like just the people, just the conversations that you
Mhm.
have there, like
Yeah.
supposedly in the end of the world or beginning of the world, I don't know, or the middle of the world, like whatever that is, but it felt super
Yeah.
powerful. And
Some people are very happy. Like I lived, 4 years in Ghana and 1 year in Equatorial Guinea. And as you said, I always noticed like there's a rhythm and there's happiness in simplicity. There is
simplicity, I love
happiness
that.
in
Yeah,
simplicity.
no, for
Like
sure.
I remember how I heard we were talking about the watch and pension. It's like it's like funny how today a lot of goals are. It's like I need to work to buy myself a Rolls Royce that has a star ceiling, but I cannot see stars in the city that I live. So we try to replace what we really have in the
What's
nature
already is there, yeah.
with
Yeah.
this kind of. But yeah, Africa is.
Yeah, Africa was a big lesson for me for sure. So I kind of like I wrapped up that part, and then I was feeling like, I also, my dad passed, so there was like this big transformation in my life, which was very beautiful because it also made me understand like death, and
Mhm.
like the way the cycles happen, and also how we are our parents, like
Yeah.
their DNA is in us. So it's like how that sort of like energy continues. And eventually that cycle came to a natural end, and I chose to go to Brazil,
Hmm.
because as I told you, like Brazil for a Portuguese is something that it was a place or an energy that was always very present, and this was my opportunity. I think I had visited Brazil on holiday once, the north, Bahia, and at this time I was like, okay, I had my friend in Rio de Janeiro, and I'm like, I'm gonna live in Rio, like, and it was amazing. I had the best time. Like it was this was back in 2014. So in 2014, I moved to Rio, and I kind of like,
I missed you by a year.
yeah, and it was the World Cup or something there. So it was like, it was kind of like safe. And then I lived in Barra da Tijuca, which was super nice at this time because like the metro wouldn't get there. So you're kind of like a little bit isolated. And I love Grumari was there. So there was so much nature. And like I had a really, really beautiful time. I think it was a time of expansion that I needed to kind of like open up. And I was there for a year only, and I thought, well, this is amazing. I mean, who doesn't want to live in
Yeah.
Rio? In like they call it Cidade Maravilhosa, no, the
Yes.
wonderful city. And I definitely had that experience. And then something very interesting happened, as most things in life. And I hadn't seen my mom in a while, and my mom was now living in Canada. So I went to Canada for the first time. To actually, no, I had been in Canada in Nova Scotia, but I went to Canada, to Toronto, to see my mom for Christmas, and it was such a big shock because it was 40 degrees in Rio in December, and I went to Canada to minus 40 degrees. I'm like, oh my god, what is this crazy uh, difference? And at the same time, I had this very beautiful connection with Canada. Like I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the nature, and I it's funny, like I also, and just recently I was also thinking about like the elk and the moose and all of these like mythical, like Canada is like such an interesting country because it's big, but a lot of it is like nature,
Yeah.
because
Most of it is, yeah.
it's so cold. So I went there and I really connected to it, and I ended up actually interestingly moving from Rio to go and live in Canada.
From heat to cold.
From heat to cold. And Canada, takes us back to the beginning of our conversation, is where my kind of like electronic music life really started. So it makes sense in a way.
Yeah.
Like, of course, in Brazil, like the other thing that was cool is Brazil at that time, you might remember if you were there, it was like the beginning of this, like there was the favela funk, that was kind
Yeah.
of happening. Like Rocinha had been cleaned up, and there was all of this baile funk, and like
Yeah.
people were like mixing, and all of these things, as you say, in simplicities
Yeah.
where sometimes the raw rhythm is. And Anita was kind of like, that is now one of the most famous Brazilian artists, was sort of like coming up and bridging these two worlds. And like I also connected with a lot of that music. And then moving to Canada was also really interesting. I felt more grounded, maybe, like like with the cold and the forests and all of this. And then I moved there. So I ended up living in Canada for, again, 4 to 5 years. I was still moving, going to Brazil sometimes, going to
Yeah.
Angola sometimes. I kind of had these different bases, but mostly there. And there it's where I really started connecting with DJing. Let's
DJing.
say, if we go to that, like I saw, as I told you, in this festival, like the people were there vibing, and I was like, wow, I love this dance, I love the forest, I love this connection, and I love the music. And then I ended up dating this woman who was a DJ. And I still remember today. It's very funny, and I think a lot of people, especially here in Tulum DJ Academy, like, you learn from the ground. And like she told me, okay, you want to be a DJ, the first thing you need to learn is how to roll cables. And I'm like, okay. And then she was going to gigs, and I was rolling cables,
Yeah.
and like connecting all of the gear, which I think is very important because electronic music, it's us and the electronics,
Yeah.
so we need to make it's energy. It's literally energy. It's like electricity that goes through all of these machines.
I think from now on, all the sets we're gonna make the students connect everything as part of the inauguration. Like you learn
Yeah,
how to
I
this, you need to learn how
to
to.
to be honest, it marked me. It gave me
Yeah.
respect. It gave me understanding. It gave me like, why is this? Like, and as you know, like, if we go deeper in music production and all that, it's all about, like, at the very core, it's about like modulating electricity. So if you don't even understand how the electricity is moving through the machines, how are you gonna transform that into a sound?
Yeah.
So for me that was very interesting. And then I lived there, and then that takes us back to where we were already, like, and then I ended up going to this festival in Jamaica, and then from there to Tulum, and here I am.
Amazing. So how did you learn? You roll the cables for the girlfriend, and
So I
then
rolled the cables for the girlfriend, and then the girlfriend also took me to this music store in
Mhm.
Long and McQuaid is this store in Canada that it's actually very interesting. Like you can go and rent equipment, you can
Oh,
buy
nice.
used equipment, and I think it facilitates as well people getting into this. And she taught me the basics. You know, comes back to what you guys are doing here. She said, "Okay, you want to be a DJ? What does it mean? It's not just being there, you know,
Yeah.
dancing and touching buttons." And she said, first of all, like you know, here's the program. She told me about Serato. So here I go, I download Serato, I go and buy a Serato controller, I learn how to download
You
tracks
remember
or
which one was it?
the what?
The first controller that you got?
I don't remember, and I'll tell you why I don't remember because I didn't like it. You know, it's very funny because so I have Serato and I have this controller, and it was a big controller,
Yeah.
right? Connected to the computer, and I was traveling at the time, and I was always traveling with like this huge bag with this controller, and I connected everywhere, and I had my little speakers and all
Mhm.
of this, and like I was really keen to put a set together, and because I think that's really will lead very beautiful in how I think about music. But for me, I wanted to tell a story. I've always wanted to tell stories with my set. So I had all of these songs that I liked. And at the time, you know, I had different things, you know, some electronic, some
Mhm.
non-electronic, and like I still didn't understand like musical keys or anything. So I was like, how do I put this set together? And for a year, I remember traveling around the world and like I had the same set. I had these like 50 tracks and I was really trying to like make it work. And
Mhm.
it was just not working, you know. And I was, but I never felt like um discouraged. I just felt like more this is my kind of hobby, you know, like I was like going about it, and then at some point something changes my trajectory. And this is when I talked to another friend of mine who was another DJ who had this big vibe which I felt
Mhm.
inspired by. And he said, oh no, I don't use Serato, I use Tractor. So and I'm like, okay. And I use the Tractor, an Allen and Heath controller, you know, the Zone K2. And 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 I go back to the store and I give back my whatever Serato controller. I don't remember. As I say, I don't remember what it
Yeah.
was because I didn't like it, even though I carry it
We're not dissing
everywhere.
on Serato, by the way.
No, not this. I love Serato, but for me, I give it back. I exchange it for this Allen and Heath, you know, MIDI controller, and I use Tractor. And
Mhm.
I don't know what happened. It
Something
was
clicked.
was like magic, you know. Suddenly, I was like, oh my god, this everything works, you know.
Yeah.
This controller had these like lights that were pulsating. I was feeling into the vibe,
Mhm.
whatever. I don't know what happened. I started mixing, and then from there it was very fast. And I think of course it benefited from this year of me like
Mhm.
trying and all of these things. But then when I had this, it was very very fast. I went to Burning Man at this
Mhm.
point, so I also connected to all of these people. And you know, like I was already like it was already working, but I was not like kind of like sharing it, you know. It
Mhm.
goes through that point. But in my camp, like at the very end when we were doing, I still love moop parties, you know. You know what moop is, matter out of place.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the burn, like everyone gets together and you clean
Clean. Yeah.
everything. And I said, you know, like let's make this fun. So let's make a moop party. So I was actually playing for these moop parties, and I was like, wow, you know, like the music is coming. I can understand how like you can connect and like impact the
Yeah.
people in whatever they are doing. So yeah, that was really really beautiful. And also and then you know, and then I was kind of like here playing with these, you know, playing for friends. I did
Mhm.
house parties, all of these things, and it was kind of like vibing. And then like the real like kind of like big jump came when I happened when I came to Tulum. and and it was also very funny for me because I at this time, as I say, like I was mixing. And maybe because like I at first I felt like I didn't have this like musical training, you know, where it's
Mhm.
like, oh, you know, where it's like all of the keys and all of the
Mhm.
things. And I think that in a way that was interesting for me because that allowed me to like play by ear or something. I
Mhm.
don't know. So I was like, I started mixing, and like I was maybe not mixing in key, but like I knew if it sounded good or not, you
Yeah.
know. So I was maybe being more daring in the things that I was doing, and this gave me a certain confidence, you know.
Mhm.
So it allowed me. I started mixing a lot of things. I also started like pitching down things. I would play a lot of things that were like 120 BPM at like 90 BPM and
Hmm.
creating super different sounds. And I
Just experiencing with the.
experiencing, and I think that was very important,
Yeah.
in my learning process,
Hmm.
because sometimes when you're like, this is how it works, it's like
Hmm.
very like structured, and then if you don't break those structures, if you don't break the rules, you don't know
Yeah.
how to apply the rules.
Yeah.
And I think that was really interesting for me. I go through all of that, and then after, and then I mean, I came to Tulum, and this was like amazing, and all of the people that were kind of like my uh, I wouldn't say my idols, but like the people that I was inspired by,
Hmm.
all those DJs that I knew from the burn, and like were
Yeah.
playing this amazing music. Suddenly they were here,
Hmm.
and that was the other different thing. I was like, wow, I used to listen to this guy on SoundCloud or
Hmm.
whatever, and now he's here in the house hanging with me. So he
Yeah.
kind of like also, Tulum was also very beautiful in that way, because he gave me these like, I saw that these people that I was inspired by were just like
I
me,
mean, yeah.
So he
We're
gave
also
me,
people.
we're also people, exactly.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. They were also people, and and that inspired me. And then, of course, I had the privilege of living in Siankan and being so connected with nature and creating like stages, all of these like beautiful palm trees and
Hmm.
all of that, and creating like super nice vibes. And still playing with my tractor and my Allen and controller, and kind of like mixing in whatever my way and what worked for me. And people were enjoying it, like there was something that was bringing there. I think I was connected. I felt
Yeah.
every time I played, I felt connected to the music. And then at some point, I was doing one of my parties in Siankan, and I was and someone was there. There's this very, well, I don't know if it's well known, but it's well known in the underground scene, Burning Man camp called Caravan of Light.
Mm.
And they had a residency here in Tulum. They were a tree house, and a lot of very beautiful artists, and the sort of like the Baba of the camp is Fernando del Sol, a very dear friend, and he was at one of our parties in Siancan, and I was like, wow, I love this music. Pascal, that you might know as well, the very famous singer here in Tulum,
Hmm.
was there. We are already mixing these, instruments and
Yeah.
voice and electronic music, and he was like, wow, this is amazing. And he actually invited me to play for their party here. And at the time, I was still only kind of like more playing more, like friends parties,
Yeah. Hobby.
not
Like
not
hobby. Yeah.
not so much. I don't know if it's a hobby, but it was more internal. It was
Hmm.
not so much like, oh, I'm gonna go and play in a party. So I remember that I was uh, kind of like nervous. Like nowadays I see nerves in a different way. Nerves is
Hmm.
the way that your body is telling you that you are getting prepared to do
Yeah.
something.
Something is happening.
Something is happening. And I was like, okay, but I was super excited about it. Wow, I'm going to play at this party. It's going to be amazing. So I ended up playing for this amazing party, 300 people at tree house,
Hmm.
like amazing stage done by this amazing artist, and like with my friends, and my friend Zohar playing the flute and
Hmm.
singing, and Pascal singing. And I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. Still playing with my computer and my Allen controller. And it kind of like really kick-started this, and
Yeah.
then Tulum was really like into these amazing parties. So I started getting invited to play in more parties and more parties. And
But that
then
was the moment that.
that was the moment that really, like, I said, okay, so this is what I'm gonna do.
Hmm.
And my artist named Nada. So Nada comes from Sanskrit. It's
Hmm.
beautiful because in Spanish means nothing, and in many other languages means nothing, and many other things.
Hmm.
The reason why I chose it is it's a word in Sanskrit that means frequency or sound. So
Oh wow.
he came to me really, like, I really received it, and he said, Nada, I'm also a yogi, so like I'm a student of yoga, and not yoga as in like a practice and stretching or whatever, but yoga as a way of life.
Hmm.
Yoga is balance, between your mind, your body, and your spirit. And I was always trying to find that balance.
Hmm.
So nada comes from that Sanskrit, and I was like, okay, I am nada. I am that frequency. I am that wave.
Hmm.
I am, and I kind of like really embodied that. And then it started my journey, and then my journey goes, okay, I play in this party, it's cool. Then it's funny because at the time and it's really funny to think back, because I almost felt ashamed that like I didn't play on CDJs,
Hmm.
like I played on my computer. And it's funny because all of the people that I love and are amazing, Satori,
Hmm.
Anders, everyone, they play on
Yeah.
the tractor.
Yeah.
But I just felt like, oh, I'm not a DJ because I'm not playing
Playing on
on
TDJ.
CDJs. So I'm also very grateful to Radio Tulum that at that time provided this space,
Hmm.
as you guys have here with like CDJs and all that, and some friends that showed me. Then I realized, wow, actually, CDJs are super easy. It's
Hmm.
just like, it's even easier than your little
Yeah.
buttons. And but I was still very attached to like playing on my computer and all that. And
Do you still play on it? Do you
uh,
still have
I,
Tractor or
I actually just got Tractor Pro 4, so I'm going
going
back to
back?
it, and it all happened in a very interesting party where I'm invited to go to this party. It was amazing. I was playing after the Soul Brothers, so
Hmm.
like someone that I also respected, a beautiful villa party deep in the jungle, and I go there with my computer and my controller and all of these, and I normally set it up, connected to the mixer. However, like the booth was very small, so I didn't have space to put my things. So I was like, oh my god,
What
here I
now?
am. What am I going to do? I already had my USB right at
Yeah.
this time, so but I didn't expect it. I was not confident
Yeah.
enough, especially in this vibe. I'm like, okay, I have to do it. And I think it's that surrender of like something is bigger than you. And I still have a little bit of trauma about this. And the mixer was an Allen and Heath, which interesting is the mixer that I was using,
Yeah.
but Zone 92, which is not my favorite mixer. I know so many people love it. It's a techno mixer, but it has different
Mhm.
things. I was used to Pioneer mixers, to the Pioneer filters, and all of these things. And suddenly I had this other mixer for the first time on this party after the Soul Brothers. And I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? And I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to surrender and do it. And I played and it was amazing. And, I kind of like removed that limiting belief. And then I started like growing more and like learning, and then like playing with so many people, and I kind of like moved more into this. What I've always liked is sharing or mixing electronic music with live instruments. So
Mhm.
I love, in Tulum we are so uh, spoiled for having so many talented
Yeah.
live instrumentalists, and that's really like, I remember my first times was actually with Pascal, where she was singing and I'm like, she's changing my music.
Hmm.
I could see it almost in the instruments. Like I,
Yeah.
I was there.
It's
I'm a
pulling
Virgo.
you
I
to
pay a lot of attention to
yeah.
everything, and I'm like, I'm looking at this and I was like, wow, the music is changing, like the frequency is changing.
Yeah.
So I really started like focusing on like, how do we create space for these live instrumentalists to be on the
Amazing.
electronic music.
I'm curious about your approach to since also because of the yogi part, but also because of your I like that your approach is experience, like
Hmm.
because I grew up in a Soviet house, so for us,
Hmm.
like learning instruments, this is how you learn piano,
Hmm.
this is there's no like,
Hmm. There's no experiment.
yeah, you cannot like shuffle, the classical music is like this, you cannot say, and as a kid, I remember I was like, okay, I don't want it, I
Hmm.
don't want it. Today it's totally different because when I approach like a instrument, I'm like, okay, let's just have fun with it, let's just
Hmm.
be comfortable with it in a way that I can experience. But I'm curious about your approach to the challenges. Like, what is your train of thought? As you said, like
Hmm.
if it was after Soul Brothers, so if it was the first event with Pascal,
Hmm.
what's
Yeah, that makes me think of two things. One, when you talk about classical music, I was recently talking to a good friend of mine. He's a classical trained cello
Mhm.
player. And he was telling me the same. Like, when he learned in the conservatory playing cello, and it's like classical music is structure. And he
Mhm.
tells me what excites him about electronic music is there's no structure. There is this space for improvisation, and like maybe the same thing that you felt. Like,
Mhm.
it's like, and I didn't have that experience because I didn't learn the
Mhm.
instruments in that way. um, it gives, he spoke about freedom, and for me
Mhm.
freedom is something that has always been important for me. Even I'm still trying to define what freedom is, but it's always
Yeah.
been a concept for me. And the way that I've approached these challenges were like, I don't know, it's almost like very cliche, but it's like feel the fear and do it anyway,
Uh-huh.
because you are passionate about it. Like challenges for me, it's like it's in your mind. All of my life I've been like understanding how we can be less driven by our
Mhm.
mind and more like connected with our heart, and what feels good is the difference between what I think and what I feel, and what I feel has all to do with vibrations and frequencies. And I remember I used to say, I'm not a DJ, I'm a frequency alchemist, whatever that means. Because
Mm-hmm.
I think when I'm here tweaking all of this and looking at you, I'm literally changing the frequencies so
Yeah.
that they hit your body in a different way. And my approach was always this one: is like I trust my heart, I trust what it feels. I'm doing this, it doesn't come from ego, so I don't want to like show and prove anything.
Yeah.
I just want to share. It's almost like, I don't know, maybe like you want to sing, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the music was inside of me. And that and the decks, it was a way to like move this energy that was inside of me out,
Mm-hmm.
so the way to approach these challenges was like, okay, like I surrender. It had to be
Mm-hmm.
a strong surrender there of like, I trust.
Yeah. Do you like take a deep breath or something? It's like,
Yeah.
I don't want to get like a hack, but
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for sure. Now, I'm not sure if I was taking deep breaths at that time, but I definitely
today.
take deep breaths today,
Today.
because that sort of like
Yeah.
calms your nervous system and, allows you to
Mm-hmm.
get out of your mind and comes more into your body and into presence. And I feel that like everything, art is about presence. I was in one of the musicians and bands that are really inspiring to me at the moment is Aware,
Mm-hmm.
and I was at one of their concerts whenever on Sunday in Khan, and I was just realizing it's all about presence.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you can be in that presence, and how you are in that presence, you are in your body. You are not thinking about the future. You're not thinking about the past. You
Yeah.
are there, and then if you are there, it's almost like time expands in a way. This is what I started feeling. It's just like when I was nervous, it's like if
Mm-hmm.
you're in your mind, everything is fast. So it's
Yeah.
almost like, am I doing right? Am I going to do right? Am I messing up? No. But if you are in presence, time expands. And what I
Mm-hmm.
realized, like, oh my God, I have so much time. I can remember all of the things that I need to remember. I can just like allow it to
Yeah.
happen because there's more time.
Yeah. So it's funny because I just today morning I listened a podcast with Rick Beato and Lex Friedman, and they were talking about Miles Davis, one of the
Hmm.
greatest
Hmm.
jazz artists, and he most of his life recording he didn't know that it was even recording.
Hmm.
Like he always said that like okay I saw some microphones but I never figured out that it's recorded because he
Hmm.
was always wanted to be in present.
Hmm.
Like he didn't was like okay we're gonna record this live Chicago 19
Hmm.
60
Hmm.
whatever, let's make it good because we're gonna
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
never knew that it was recorded. It was
Mhm.
just always being like in a present and play specifically for that gig with that audience,
Yeah.
me to you
Hmm.
as an artist. So it's kind of resonate
Hmm.
resonate to what you
And
see.
you know that I heard something very beautiful about Miles Davis as well. And Miles Davis used to play smoking marijuana as well. And it was one of the things at the time that it was like, oh, can I get my marijuana? And I
Yeah.
find that it's interesting because it's about bringing in the present.
Yeah.
As you say, like, I always say press rec.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter. We are here in the present. We might have these microphones and all of these cameras, but at the end of the day, this conversation,
Yeah.
the truth of this conversation is me connecting to you.
Yeah.
And in a way, we have to like absorb ourselves from everything that is around. And I think that's a very valid point,
Hmm.
because when you are not, because otherwise you become performing, and it's not
Hmm.
about performance. It's about like expression.
Yeah.
You know.
It's a lot of love, I would say, also, because it's like
Yeah.
you me expressing to you, sharing energy. There's a lot of, you know, that that word, whatever it means to everybody. But I feel like in music, it's especially that. It's like as an artist connects you love your craft,
Hmm.
and you love sharing your craft,
Hmm. For
because
sure.
that's the biggest point of it. It's funny, but by the way, that you talk about Tractor, because I remember my first time was also with Tractor, and I had a MIDI controller, and as you said, like moving to CDJ,
Uh-huh.
I had like a MIDI fighter, which was like 16 buttons,
Uh-huh.
like 8 on 8, and you basically control the Tractor via pushing the buttons, how you configure them, And in the
Yeah.
beginning, it was like
MIDI
okay,
mapping.
yeah, and it was like
It's so confusing.
so confusing, and you need to sit on it so long because it's
Uh,
almost like a coding
it's
that
called,
to that. And then I got my first Newmark controller. I remember that for a virtual DJ.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, to play, I just need to press play. And to cue, I just need to press
I
cue,
know,
and
I
to
know.
loop, I just need to press
This button, yeah.
loop. But it gave me so much,
Mhm.
so much, I would say, like, not only confidence, but to also appreciate it, like how that thing can work. And I think what you were saying, like that thing of carrying cables to connect, to, not to just to come and think, oh, okay, it's gonna be
It's done. I
given
just
to you.
press play.
There's so
Exactly.
much more into it, and it's good to be start from baby steps to also appreciate. Okay,
Hmm.
how to troubleshoot as well. As you
How
say,
to do it.
you're coming to challenges.
Hmm.
I need to connect this. I need to connect. Oh my god, because we're gonna have those challenges.
Yeah, and it's funny because like I was telling you that in a way I just got Tractor Pro 4, which is amazing because it has stem separator and it has this like, rhythmic
Yeah.
machines embedded into it. It's actually very interesting what you can do now with all of this, and he brought me back because like at some point like you are a DJ, then you go to this, and then you have two CDJs, three
Mhm.
CDJs, four CDJs. What else can you add
Yeah,
there?
yeah.
Like, and Tractor gives you like another different world of all of these things. But it brought me back into like going to a gig. Instead of carrying my USB and my headphones, I'm now carrying my bag with like cables. What if this cable
Cable
is
doesn't
not
work.
working? I need another cable. Then I have to go there and I have to set up everything. And I'm like, oh my God, it's almost like this extra stress because it's
Yeah,
like, what if one of the cables doesn't work or one of the things
yeah.
doesn't?
But it's like
So,
going to Burning Man.
yeah,
It's the
yeah,
experience
yeah.
is part of carrying your stuff, building, cleaning.
And I love it. It gives you
It's
something different. And it's also like I'm kind of like expanding what is music, how do we express
hmm
music. And I think like coming back to something, and that's what you say, is like it's confusing, but at the same time, wow, you actually, it's I love the word MIDI mapping. You're
hmm
literally creating a map, and
yeah,
yes, you have to be there and see all these weird codes of like how
yeah,
you like do all of these things, but once you do it, it's your map,
yeah.
like
It works as you
it's your tool
design it. Yeah,
as you designed it. Yeah.
yeah. So true, so true. So how would you describe your sound today? As not after all these
Yeah,
years.
that's a very interesting question, and I've had this conversation, and I'm sure you even more than me. Like, genres today is like what I don't know. Everything is
Mhm,
mixed, like there's no genre. I think that I started very much influenced by deep house, let's
mhm,
say, like that's more. I was also particularly influenced for some reason from Oriental house
mhm,
or like deep oriental. Like I've always liked these things. I like the flutes, I like these like mysterious sounds. Like
mhm,
I've always really enjoyed it. So that's where it starts, and then I had a huge influence of Tulum, and I don't know what that influence is, but it's kind of like, I call it jungle, although it's like not jungle, but it's this kind of like raw. There's
mhm,
this like raw strong energy of Tulum, so that came very much into my music. And nowadays I would say that like, um, I don't have a style is not a style, it's
mhm,
my style. I think that's beautiful as well in the artist. People, and I go to see people go to see you. They don't go to listen to a kind of
mhm,
music at some point. As an artist, they go to see your energy and
mhm,
what you come across. And I think my sound is made of everything that happened in my life. It's made from ABBA and Queen
mhm.
from when I was uh, what is it? There is this don't remember now, but there's songs that I remember listening when I was 5 years old,
Yeah.
and like there's sounds and aspects there that I now realize that are still in my music,
Yeah.
and I'm very grateful that we are in a place with music that all of this is mixed, so you can
Yeah.
have a little bit of trance, you can have a little bit of progressive, you can have a little bit of tribal, you can have a
Mhm,
little bit of oriental, and like for me it's more, it's about creating a harmonic journey.
mhm,
So that's what I enjoy. I would characterize my sound by, it's a storytelling. I love to share a story. I love to take you on a journey,
mhm,
So that's what my style, and it can be anything. I love down tempo, and I can play 3 hours at 90
mhm.
BPM, and I also enjoy like a party,
Yeah.
where like people are jumping up
Picking,
and
yeah.
down and putting their hands up, and I actually saw your previous podcast with Igor, and that's what he was saying, like,
Mhm,
so in a way it's easy to put people with their hands up in the air, play that super crazy track with all of the sounds,
mhm,
people put their hands up in the air. That's how it works. And but for me, and I really resonated in this little clip that I saw about the warming up, and I always
mhm.
said the most important role is your opener.
Opener. Yeah.
Opener is the most important because he puts the first frequencies in the space. He
Yeah.
creates what that space is going to be. And I've always liked that. And I always like, believe that it's about like connecting with the energy, and I love that. I love like getting people to move. I love moving people from wherever they
Hmm.
are into the sound, you know.
Yeah,
That's like
piquing the curiosity of people. Yeah.
to make that gateway, you know.
Hmm.
And then yeah, and then of course, you know, sometimes you also want everyone jumping for you and the lights flashing and all of the
Yeah.
things. Oh sure, that feels amazing and feeds your ego, but what really feeds my soul is, you know, like it's showing people the gateway, the portal of music. When
Hmm.
they, you know, I think I heard someone saying like the great DJs are the ones that don't play what you want, but play
What you
what you
need.
didn't know you
You,
wanted, you know, like, and you and give them
yeah.
that experience. And for me, I think, and you know, not in a in an egotistical way, but I think first and foremost, I want to play what is true to
Hmm.
me, you know, what I like, you know, like
Yeah.
I feel that is a bit of a travesty to play something that you don't like, you know,
Yeah.
like and so first and foremost, I play what I like, what is resonant to me, and that's a collection of all of my emotions and my thoughts and my experiences and my travels, you know, like world sounds, and and then to connect that with the environment where we are, you
Yeah.
know, and like and with the time of the day and with the moon and with all of these things. And I think that's what I would characterize my sound right now, is that. And it can be anything. Like for example, I'm starting a new project, what I call nada sutras, you know. Sutra means a sacred text, right? And the sutra normally it's like it's a condensed, like a sutra is very interesting, it's like
Yeah.
it's a sentence that transmits a concept, right? So it's like distilled to its essence.
Hmm.
And nada, even though it's the name that I've taken as an artist, is sound.
Sound.
So is the sutras, the sacred uh, texts of sound,
Sound.
you know. So what I'm doing is I take people through a journey where you are almost like you could almost compare it to a yoga class. Like you have
Hmm.
your mat, you have your eye mask, you can dance, you can move, but it's an inner journey, you know. And the music there serves to break through your emotional blocks, to touch you, because different instruments, different frequencies opens different parts of you, you know.
Hmm.
And that takes you in that journey. So, and that's, you know,
So it's
tracked.
like a blind experience with
it's
music.
it's whatever you want, because I
Hmm.
believe in not telling you what to do.
Ah, okay.
I believe this is your experience, you know. Do you want to like be upside down while listening to it? Do it.
Hmm.
You know what, it's more is a moment of presence. So it's a particular experience that you are there, so you allow these sound and these frequencies and these different textures
Hmm.
to break through your covers. You know,
Hmm.
we all put covers for many things, so if we can
Yeah.
break through those covers, you feel within yourself, you know.
Hmm.
And my interest here is to feel, is to communicate some sort of like message of truth, not my truth, but of divine truth,
Hmm.
through the sound, so that your truth is yours. The only thing that I can
Yeah.
do is I can try to help you up so that you receive your truth, you
Yeah.
know.
I
So
can show you the
that's
door, but
through the door, exactly. You can take a horse to water, you cannot force it to drink,
to
you know.
drink.
And
Yeah.
my purpose here, and what I believe I can do with music and with presence, is to bring you to that. So that's something that I'm
It's
excited
amazing.
about at the moment to do it. So it's a very big range, you know. I've
Hmm.
also started doing something that I like. So talk about DJing, then I started producing, you know. Producing is beautiful, to be honest. Like at the beginning I was like, wow, if you want to be a DJ and want to be well known, you have to produce, you know. And
Hmm.
there's this kind of pressure. And it was funny that at the time people were like, oh yeah, you know, you are getting some popularity with your DJing, so now let's get you producing, let's get you a ghost producer. And I was
Hmm.
like, just doesn't feel right for me, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't judge it, but for me it doesn't feel right. Well, because I've always like been connected to what is it that is my true sound, you know.
Yeah.
Like that's what I want to
What
share.
is my
Whether
DNA?
what is my DNA, you know, whether I'm playing tracks for someone else, but they reflect what I feel, you know. And in production I said, okay, no, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna sit. And I called the help of my friend Dante, who has also been like exploring production for a long time. We hired a little chalet in Costa Rica, and
Hmm.
we like went down and we started creating music, and that was beautiful. And I enjoy the production very much. You know, it help me understand music deeper
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
you know, like more than anything. And you know, like now I have many like originals out, and like that's beautiful. But what I really enjoyed it is it took me to uh, this is a beginning of what I know it's going to be a long journey, but of a life set, you know. Like
Hmm.
how can you actually play from your Ableton with your
Yeah,
Ableton
Ableton Live and
controllers, Ableton. It's not Ableton. Yeah, Ableton Live,
Live.
but
Yeah.
like APC 40s, like still like DJ adapting
Yeah. Yeah.
to Ableton, and I also created a band called the Somos Live Set, and we basically link three Abletons, and so
Oh,
we kind of
nice.
like it's a band, like it's me, Dante, and Avi, and we all kind of like create this triangle of like anchoring the energy, and then we have live instrumentalists, and we go on themes, so it's like the story here is like we are on the theme. So the first one that we released, very beautiful, is called Balam Ha. It's focused on water, so it's all about the element of water through that journey. We don't even call it songs, we call it chapters. We take you through chapters
Oh,
and
nice.
through a story, and that's really nice. And now we are in the process of filming. The next one is going to be Earth, so it's all about connecting to the earth, and filmed in very beautiful places. The first one was filmed in Siankan in the cenotes, and my intention was to bring a non-activist, artistic way to raise consciousness about the importance of water.
Yeah.
So
Are
so
you
the
planning to perform live?
yeah, no, we've performed live
Yeah.
already with this. So what we do, it was also very beautiful because he opened many other doors. So we play for like like weddings or something like this. We do central stage. Like we create like a 360 sound, and this is what we focus.
Experiments.
Yeah, it's experimental and also like grounded at the same
Yeah.
time. I feel that like the Ableton session gives you that grounding, and at the same time like it allows you that experiment. And then you have the live instrumentalists or the singers that are feeling safe in that kind of like structure of sorts that you create, and then opening up their channels to create something that is unique. So
Yeah.
it's almost live set is always unique. It can never be the same, because even if the sounds that we have there are kind of the same, like they're always going to be played in a different way, with different effects, with different
Yeah. Even the echo is going to be different.
the echo is going to be different. So
Yeah.
yeah, so nada sound is
Wow.
many things these days.
Yeah. How do you prepare for sets if you're gonna play?
That's actually that I love that question. I mentioned before, I don't know, like I am is a strong thing, but my sun is in Virgo, and I have many planets in Virgo. And for me, because I'm also connected to astrology, that means that I'm a person that pays a lot of attention to detail. I don't know if it's because of being a Virgo, but that's how I am. I notice many things. So I I I am in one of the things that I would say is that preparing is an important thing for me. So how do I prepare for a set? I create a crate where I feel into like, what do I want to feel? I imagine myself in that place. I imagine the people there. What did I wanted to feel? And I create a crate of sound. And for me these days it's very easy. I listen to a song for 10 seconds and I know if it's that sound or not sound. So I kind of like go through it. I prepare a crate. Then when I have this crate, it's almost like I have my materia prima. I have my like starting things, and then from these I'm gonna shape the story, right? So I mix mostly harmonically these days, so I like go through the different keys, like a key journey, and I create the story. And then I've realized, and I remember once like someone that I also respect a lot in the industry said, wow, like someone has done their homework, and it stayed with me because it really shows sometimes when you've done your homework or not.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I also know that there is a balance between preparing and being present.
Present. Yeah.
I think sometimes, like, I think that a set that you prepare amazingly well is going to be amazing, but maybe it's not going to be magical,
Yeah.
because you can only be as good as the container that you've created for it.
Yeah.
While sometimes when you don't create the container, you can go beyond it. So what I try to do is it's I like preparing my sets. I like making those crates. I like making, like sometimes many times I have a song selection, so I know what I'm gonna play. Like from track to track. Like uh, and I also like to live a little bit to this element of like being in the moment. So what I do sometimes is like, let's say I prepare the set halfway or three quarters, and then I have a more loose end,
Yeah. You just
so
see by
that
the.
when I'm there, because what I feel, and I feel that this is common in many other electronic music artists, is once I am what I call the pocket, we create the pocket of sound. And once I'm inside this pocket, I'm no longer my ego. I'm an instrument of
Mm-hmm.
whatever energy is there,
Yeah.
of the toroidal field of energy that is coming from the crowd, of the things that is coming from nature, or
Mm-hmm.
the place where I am, of all of the things. So what I feel is that things start popping up, like, and actually Burning Man is very interesting. Burning Man is the only place that I never prepare myself, because I've learned this lesson. I just have crazy crates for Burning Man, and you never know.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to be this, you end up playing
Theirs,
something
yeah.
different. So here, what I realize is like, how can I center myself, maybe through this breath work or whatever that you're
Mm-hmm.
saying? How can I be present, not be in my mind? And then once I'm in that pocket, what I realize is that uh, things jump to me. It's almost like I look at my list and I'm like, this is the next track it's just so obvious.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like I cannot even explain it in a rational way, but like
Yeah.
I know that that's the next track,
Yeah. The
and
song speaks to you
the
before you
song
play it.
speaks to me. It's just I don't have to think about how we're gonna play. I just know
Yeah.
it, and then the mixing is amazing because you just know that this is
Mm-hmm.
the right track to come in. So it's almost all of the worries fade away,
Mm-hmm.
and then you are like, well, I'm just crafting, like I'm just being,
Yeah.
like this is what I enjoy. This is what I enjoy, mixing the sounds and bringing the things out. So yeah, I definitely do your homework for me. Do your homework, select. I also find interesting is very like relevant to where I'm playing. So sometimes like because like I can also be like a perfectionist and I'm like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna like prepare my set for next month. I feel that this doesn't work.
Mm.
I feel what I do is I prepare crates. I know
Mm-hmm.
like eventually I'm gonna play there. I start putting songs into a crate, so it
Mm-hmm.
starts doing part of the work. But to really like draw on the journey, I feel that I need to be in the place. And that's something very interesting because every time I play like a set or a gig that is like beautiful and
Mm-hmm.
important, I mean every gig is important, but something that
Yeah.
is like more serious, let's say, I always like to get there 2 days before because I like to
To feel
sit into
the,
the
yeah.
energy, fit into the energy. And it's not, and trust me, I'm like the last person to like wants to feel anxious, but most of the times I end up finishing the set the day before or on the day because I'm
Mm.
really allowing me to feel how do I feel today, how do I my emotions feel today, how the light feels, how the temperature
Mm-hmm.
feels, all of the things, and ta 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 ta, and then I finish it and I'm like, wow, I have this feeling of like I finished my cooking. I don't know, now
Yeah.
I'm gonna serve it.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool. So it's basically like you bring the general idea, but
Mhm.
then you let the place to
Right.
the place and yourself to dictate
Yeah.
the flow of the flow of the set.
Mhm.
What would you recommend for people who are starting the journey from your experience? Because we talk about it like a lot of, I think people are holed up behind this kind of curtain. Oh, you need to be an artist to perform music, and
Mhm.
we put this pedestal of artists, and we're not that. But if people are trying right now, even if they haven't played before or they played a little bit or in whatever the journey they are, but they still have this kind of because
Mhm.
it's not easy to play in front of people. I think it's a very vulnerable place.
Mhm. Mhm. I I have many thoughts about this.
Mhm.
I feel that I'm gonna start by what you said last, which is not easy. I don't know if it's easy or not, but it's certainly something different,
Mhm.
because it's vulnerable. You are exposing yourself. You're exposing yourself in so many levels. Like one, your taste, like you chose this song. Do people like this song?
Mhm.
Like there's many thoughts that can go into your mind. Then you are like, uh, technically, are you
Mhm.
like mixing well, are you not mixing well, are you like communicating the
Yeah.
expression well? So it's vulnerable in many ways. And what I would say there to someone that is starting is like, trust yourself. There is some truth about it. It's like it's coming out of these thoughts
Mhm.
and being your truth, first of all. Then I say that it's funny because when you are performing, you can perform or not perform. You can be in front of many people and be in front of no one. Like I also like part of my trajectory has been to do these sets that I kind of like almost became more famous for, is like doing these like sets in nature with no
Mhm.
one, like going into a beautiful place and just like playing the music. And for here, I was playing for a higher audience, I
Mhm.
was playing for nature, and like that actually made me feel differently. However, like when you are um, playing in front of people, you are also showing yourself. And this is something very interesting because at some point, a lot of people think they know you, or they know you even though you never spoke to them, because in that moment of vulnerability, if you are really connected, you are showing yourself.
Yeah.
This is who you are. You don't need to talk so much. They receive your energy. So the advice that I would give is like, like, don't be afraid of being you, like, you should, anything you do, you should do it because you are passionate, not because it's cool to be a DJ, or of course these days it's very cool to be a DJ. Everyone wants to be a DJ and have reels on Instagram and
Yeah.
see many people jumping around you and all of the things. But I think at the end of the day, like, the difference between anything, whether it's a DJ or a chef or whatever, and an artist, is if your heart is in it. What are you doing it for? Are you doing it for the people or for yourself? And if you do it for yourself, for me, that's the anchor. So my first advice is like, make sure where you are. Make sure where you are in your heart. Is it for you? Do you love the music? Do you love sharing? Does it make you happy? Does it expand you? Independent of people or no people, or fees or no fees, does it make you feel more expanded?
Yeah.
And then, like, I was talking to a friend actually just on Sunday, and she was gonna play and sing, and she was like a little bit nervous, and I said, like, just play your truth, place what is truthful for you. Oh, I don't know what I'm gonna play or not play. It doesn't matter. It matters what is truthful to you, and like, and again, going back to Rick Rubin, which obviously is an influence for many people in the music artists, it says the best work divides the audience. And this is something that I think it's very important, like, for especially at the beginning, to know, because you are like, wow, actually she made a bad face, she didn't like this. It's okay, as long as it's your truth, as long as you're not pretending. Because maybe I touched something in you that reminded you of a sound that reminded you of your relationship with your grandfather or your grandmother, and it healed something inside of you, and that's important, and that is different for different
Yeah.
people. So what is your truth without fear, because there's no fear in expressing our truth. There is no fear in being authentic.
Yeah.
So my main thing is authenticity. One, authenticity. Second, like, if you are authentic and care, learn about the art. Like, we were talking about this, me and you, like, okay, there's MIDI mappings that are very confusing. Decks are not so confusing. There's a button that says play. There's a button that says loop. Learn it.
Spend your time on it. Yeah.
Spend your time, like, if you're gonna be a racing driver, you have to drive the car. You cannot just say, "Wow, I love racing," and I've never been in the car. So be authentic. Obviously care about music, love music, and then and learn your instrument. Whether that is a guitar or a flute or electronic decks. Learn what is your instrument.
Yeah.
Create a relationship with it. Like, I go deeper, make love to it. It's like it becomes part of you.
Yeah.
Like, and that's once we go back to, like, in electronic instruments, like, care about the cables, because you need to understand what it's doing. It's not just a machine with a flashing button.
Yeah.
Like, what is it doing? And I think if you care about that, it's a very first good step.
It is a musical instrument. It's like,
It is a musical
it's a music instrument for. I think maybe today the technology, which is also a totally different topic, but it's like we kind of don't really take it for granted, but it's like because you touch a wooden guitar, you know that you're touching a musical instrument. Here sometimes people, this controller,
It's a musical instrument.
it's a musical instrument. It just does different things, It's,
and I always say, people say, do you play instruments? And I say, I play electronic instruments.
Yeah, definitely, totally. It's
the way you touch it. Is like, it's the same thing. Like, who are the most, for me, I see who are the virtuoso artists that play the guitar. They are making love to the guitar. There's a relationship.
Yeah.
And the same thing with decks. You need to have a relationship. You touch those buttons because, we see all of these jokes on the internet and whatever, like, what are the DJs doing? Like, touching these buttons. I believe in something different. I believe that a micro adjustment of your EQ changes the frequency of what is
Definitely.
out, know? And that, they are pretending. I don't know. I'm not pretending. I am adjusting the frequency to what is more resonant to my body, that is attuned to what I'm expressing, know?
I had this conversation with my dad. It was,
it's an instrument. It's like I'm playing this little chord. I'm touching this with a different pressure. Like, everything has an impact. I'm using a flute. Like, I'm putting different air into it. Like, all of it contributes to the.
Yeah, it's a different frequency. My dad is old school, but thanks to him, I'm really, like, my love for music is definitely thanks to him. but we were like almost arguing on point of because he never understood electronic music. For him, it was like the music needs to be a band, play by outside. And when I was trying, "Hey, but you're just touching buttons." I'm like, yeah, but piano is also touching buttons.
Guitar is
But he
also
said, no,
touching
but
some.
piano is during a string. I'm like, okay, we can argue about that, but I can show you, like, if I'm gonna put the highs down, it's gonna be totally different sound. Or if I put the lows down, it's expressing through mixing. It's expressing through playing that musical instrument. But yeah, it's a whole world out there.
And you know something interesting that makes me think when you're talking about your dad, like, and I feel with my music, something that I've experienced is many people that didn't understand electronic music. They would say, "Wow, I don't want to go to a party because it's this like sound, loud sound, and whatever."
Doesn't speak to me.
And you actually give them an experience. They are like, "Wow!" They are
Yeah.
mind blown. I'm sure that at some point, or you've probably done it, you can give your dad an experience because he loves music of like, wow, you blew my mind. Because
Yeah.
also, like with everything, like we started by saying that the only constant in life is change, and things change and evolve, like Tulum, and what we can do these days with electronic instruments is also an extension of what was done before. So you can actually, someone that loves music, you can blow their mind with something that you can do now.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, the plan is he's gonna come here in November, and we're gonna take him to a full moon party,
No, for
and
sure.
then I'm
It
gonna
will
let
be.
him
It will be my pleasure
let him
to.
experience the whole. Because I was thinking about Burning Man, but it's gonna be hard to convince him to take him to Burning Man.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I know. I'm gonna ask you a few rapid questions.
Beautiful.
Feel free to answer the first answer that comes.
I love this.
Sunrise or sunset set to play. To play.
Wow. I wanted to be fast. First thing in my mind is sunrise, although I haven't played many sunrise sets. My answer is not so quick, but it's an important one because it's been
Why?
in my mind. Because it's very difficult to set up in the dark. So, in order for you to play a sunrise set, you need to set up in the dark. I've played some in parties that continue until sunrise. I love it. Sunrise energy is very beautiful. It's bringing from the dark into the sun. So I really appreciate it. I've played many more sunsets because it's, I love that transition of the
Doesn't
day and
tonight,
it's
yeah.
easier. Although what is in my mind, and you asked me to be fast, is sunrise. I haven't played so many. I'm gonna get your inspiration to play more.
Sunrise sets. It's here on the beach. It's like
Yeah.
it's like.
I
But
know.
yeah,
Difficult to set up.
the
Like
difficult to separate.
difficult to
Definitely.
set up, but anything that is difficult is worth it. Like
Yeah. Next one. Festival or a Tulum beach party.
two completely different things. Festival is a place where many people come together to share their art, is normally longer. And I think that a true festival people also have different ideas of festival. Coachella is a festival and it's a different thing, but a true festival where you come with your art, with your potions, with your drinks, with your food, with all of the things, unique, life
Yeah.
changing. Party on the beach, very beautiful, but life changing for me, a true festival.
Festival. Burning Man or Boom?
I've been
Since
to
you're Portugal, so we will talk about it.
yeah. I haven't been to Boom, and I've been to Burning Man, so I don't know. I cannot
Wow.
answer the question. I love both. I heard many things about Boom, and I'm excited to experience it, but I haven't. I mean, my question has to see Burning Man because I haven't experienced Boom.
Wow. Okay. So we need to take you to Boom Festival, especially for trance music as well.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a place. One artist that you today would you say that is really inspires you or channels through you something that you would. I don't like to say favorite artist. It's a bit
Yeah, I think yeah, exactly as you say, it's very difficult to say favorite artist. Someone that has always been there. As I am privileged to be friends with many incredible artists that inspire me every day in many ways. However, someone that has always stayed there in this way for me is Satori.
Satori. Yeah.
And it's a different thing,
Yeah.
It's mixing with guitar and like Alan Halsey is also amazing, doing the same thing. It's
Yeah.
just
So
like
many elements.
I love, but Satori because I don't know, he like really plays with all of it's like it's been there, but many.
Yeah. If you could tomorrow wake up and play any musical instrument, what would it be?
I love this question. Um, Whew, wow, wow. You know, like I'm gonna. It's really really powerful. I love many things. I love strings because strings have a very beautiful reverberance, and there's many different strings, especially Oriental instruments. However, I see if I could really play anything, I think it would be a flute.
Flute?
Yeah, because flute is your air. You know, so
Yeah.
like one is this is your fingers and whatever, but your air is our spirit, you know, so the spirit going through something, for example, and I'm thinking about like the balabam or the
Mm.
duduk or the ney flute or like these things that are so incredible, you know, that create reverberant chambers for your soul, you know. And I think that a flute, I don't know, it's your soul speaking, you
So
know.
I'm gonna have something for you, man.
Hmm.
I discovered a few months ago the art of shakuhachi, which is the Japanese flute used by Zen monks.
Hmm.
And what's super interesting about it, it takes a lot of time to take the note out because it doesn't have the regular like flute mouth,
Hmm.
so
It's
it's
with a
only about
reed.
modulation
Yeah.
of your mouth. And then I discovered the book which is called Breathwork Meditation Through the Art of Shakuhachi.
Hmm.
So there's a lot you need to sit with that instrument. And the beautiful thing is like I started getting into it. There's this Japanese artist, Tekohoro. I don't remember his name, so I'm gonna butcher it. But he did a lot of jazz variations of songs via shakuhachi,
Hmm.
and every artist has a different sound on shakuhachi because
Hmm.
obviously, I think in all instruments each has its own sound. But a C chord is gonna be a C chord. But in shakuhachi, everybody has a different,
Hmm.
how they express with them. I give it to a friend of mine, and he did fu, but it was totally different fu than mine.
Yeah.
Another friend, totally different. So
Because it's yours. It's
it's
yours.
exactly it's
It's
how you
yours. It's
breathe. It's your
your breath.
vibration.
It's your
It's super,
vibration.
super, super, super interesting. So shakuhachi, I totally recommend to you.
Shakuhachi. You that definitely opened something for me. Everything that we do, we talked about being expansive, right? And like
Yeah,
even this podcast is about being expansive,
yeah.
you know, and that is giving me something. I want just to share that like this thing of the flutes came to me when I started hearing. I have a friend that plays the ney flute, and I don't know if you know about the ney flute, but the ney flute is a reed that grows like, you know, like that you I always think about Egypt and papyrus and all
Yeah,
of these things with the reeds. And they say that in order to make the ney flute is one in 10,000 reads, it's actually makes sound. So first
wow.
of all is like imagine the finding the perfect
Yeah,
thing. Then they say that many people take 8 years to make sound out of these things. Now imagine the
wow.
level of dedication
Yeah.
and love. And I know many things about this. For example, I'm sure you've heard of ragas. And ragas is, for example, for sitar in
Mm-hmm.
India. They say that if you are a sitar player, you cannot play other instruments because that is your
Mm-hmm.
commitment,
Yeah.
you know. And I love with this flute is just, and for me it was mind blowing. Imagine like, you know, sometimes you get frustrated, you blow a few times and no
Doesn't
sound
work.
comes
Yeah.
out, and then imagine for 8 years like developing. We talk about relationship with the instrument, right?
Yeah.
So it really gave me this beautiful connection. And also of course the duduk, which is one of my
Mm-hmm.
favorite instruments, and it's just like the masters of this flute. And I'm so glad that you brought this awareness to me of what is
Shakuhachi.
shakuachi,
Shakuhachi.
shakuachi. And
Shakuhachi.
I
Yeah.
really, and you asked me what instrument I wanted to play, so I guess I have to
Flute.
get a flute.
Yeah. So we're gonna get you shakuhachi.
I'm gonna get a shakuachi,
That's the
and
next
then
step.
be a Zen monk, like meditating on my
Yeah.
flute. I love it.
No, but I love it. It's a very like it's philosophical of almost the relationship you have with the instrument. It's almost like any relationship. It's not
Hmm.
gonna be easy.
Yeah, no,
But
for
there's a lot
sure.
of
The more you put into it, the more you get out
the
of
more
it.
you're gonna get. Yeah.
Hmm.
To summarize, Nada, what's the future holds for Nada?
Well, the future right now, I'm very excited about this summer
Mhm.
because I've decided to not hustle for gigs or anything. I decided to go into a spacious summer. You know, I want to ground. I think
Mhm.
sometimes, and this is again, especially part of the Tulum DJ Academy, it's almost we get into a rat race of like music as well.
Mhm.
You know, it's an industry, so you like
Yeah.
have to like promote yourself and get gigs and whatever. And like this summer, I'm excited to ground, you know, I'm going to go and take space for myself
Mhm.
so that I truly understand what are these next steps, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited about it. I'm also planning to go to Bali for the first time. I haven't been, so
Wow.
expanding
Yeah.
my music awareness to that side. And in terms of my sound, it's I think it's more like live, and you know, like you know, like I remember like one of my last beautiful moments was actually playing for a party that Tulum DJ Academy put to, you know,
Hmm.
like the in the in
Ah.
the
Wow.
jungle. And I'm like, and I'm and my love for Ran comes from this time, you know, because I'm like, okay, like whatever this is, this guy is like, he cares, you know.
Hmm.
And I'm like, I remember going to that party and like, and remembering like what is the truth of playing, you know, when it's not for like anything else other than your like essence. And I'm always gonna love parties. I'm always gonna love, you know, to make you move and dance and like using all of these sounds and all of the things. So the future is expansive.
Hmm.
For me, the future is expansive, you
I
know.
love it.
It's anything from little flute sounds and meditation sounds, because it's very beautiful getting to us, and also like celebration, you know.
Yeah.
And the journey between them, and the allowing the space and the time to find yourself in that journey.
Totally. Well, thank you very much for what you're doing. Thank you for your passion. I think it's there's a lot of philosophy behind it.
Mm.
I really like it. Thank you for taking time to join me on this journey of
Mm.
knowing you a little bit better. And we're gonna see you around here all the time. So it was again.
Thank you so much, Gregory. Thank you, Rand. Thank you to Loom DJ Academy. I'm very happy that you are doing this work. You know, this service is more than a work; is a service. And thank you for your passion as well. You know, I always say that the world is a combination of every different element expressing their passion.
Yeah.
You know, we have a saying in Portuguese that is cada macaco no seu galho, each monkey on their branch. You know, and I think that if we are all in our branches doing the best, we will
Yeah.
create something magical. So have a lot of respect and admiration for you guys. Thank you for your passion, for your service, and for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. It's amazing.
Mhm.
Bye, everybody.